welcome Martin and Susan Leiderman to our fourth series on the Secret Doctrine. They've been amazing so far, and we've had really good feedback from them. So I'm sure everyone's really looking forward to this. So over to you, Martin.
Richard, thank you, and all of you, thank you for participating in this last talk, at least for now, right? In the Secret Doctrine, Cosmogenesis. Here we are, and like Richard said, this last talk is about the key ideas in the stanzas of Dzyan, Cosmogenesis. Remember, very important is to study the stanzas of Dzyan. You have to, in my opinion, humble opinion, but very important, is to study the proem really well. The proem is your door to the Secret Doctrine. Key ideas are there presented for you. Vocabulary is there for you to study and research. The three fundamental propositions are there, and then a summary of the stanzas of Dzyan are there. So the proem is probably the most important part of the study of the Secret Doctrine. If you don't understand the proem, and again, welcome to you all. We're going to review the 7 stanzas of Dzyan in Cosmogenesis, along with the key ideas that you will find in them. I'm also going to show you how I approach them. So you will find various ways throughout this talk of how I study the Secret Doctrine, the stanzas of Dzyan in the Secret Doctrine, and maybe one of them will stick with you, or you can watch this video several times and use them all. These are tools. These are ways to approach the stanzas of Dzyan, and it's not easy. The Secret Doctrine is extremely complicated. Again, an abstract vocabulary, foreign words in Sanskrit, in Greek, and Hebrew, and so on. Buddhist ideas, you will find there, Pythagorean ideas, Platonic ideas, Platonist ideas. So it's difficult, and you have to have a mindset to say, I'm going to study them. Okay, so here we go. To study the stanzas of Dzyan, therefore, you need to start with the proem. And in the proem, on the Secret Doctrine, and this is on page, let's see, 20, something like that?
That's the beginning of the
stanzas. That's the one. When you go to the proem, and sorry, I'm going page by page, that's always life, right? You will find that Blavatsky uses the proem to introduce the stanzas of Dzyan. Which page is that? On page 20 in the proem of the Secret Doctrine, this is the 1888 edition. In the proem, you will find that in one moment she wrote, I pass on. Will you read it?
I pass on, therefore, to the subject matter of the stanzas, as given in this volume, adding a skeleton outline of them, in the hope of thereby rendering the task of the student more easy, by placing before him in a few words the general conception therein explained.
This skeleton, these few words are very key, and I'm going to show you why. Okay, so in stanza 1, and by the way, this is a mistake from the printer, so you cross it out like I did. Just take a pencil and it doesn't go there. So we're not going to study this line by line. This takes several months to study. But here is what she calls the skeleton and few words about stanza number 1. And here it is. Will you read it, please?
The first stanza describes the state of the one all during pralaya, before the first flutter of reawakening manifestation. A moment's thought shows that such a state can only be symbolized. To describe it is impossible, nor can it be symbolized except in negatives. For since it is the state of absoluteness per se, it can possess none of those specific attributes which serve us to describe objects in positive terms.
So here is the key idea of stanza 1. So when you look at stanza number 1, and I'm going back to the PowerPoint presentation, you will find that you have on my left side of the screen, the poem outline. This is what Susan just read. I don't know if you can read this, but again, the first stanza describes, and this is what she read. Then you have the stanzas themselves. In this case, stanza 1 has 9 slokas. You see that from 1 to 9. Hopefully you can see them. You may have the book on you or whatever, but here they are. Also, don't forget that in HPV also has a commentary after the stanzas, and she also listed topics that she's going to speak on or commented on as she explains the stanzas of Dzyan. So in stanza 1, you have these ideas too. You see that? This is from the, this is from the table of content. So the night of the universe is the name of the stanza, or the title of the stanza. She's going to speak about the 7 eternities, the idea of time, and so on, so on. And Alaya, or Alia, the universal soul. Remember, in my first talk, I pointed to the idea of Alaya, which in the voice of the silence is the inner master and is the object of dharana, the concentration that will take you to dhyana, contemplation, and to samadhi. This is the inner teacher in the voice of the silence. Look for the word alaya in the voice of the silence and make the connection. In other words, the deeper you go within us, the higher we go into the universe. This connection, this correspondence of a human being with the universe runs throughout the Secret Doctrine. So you see, I study the poem outline. I see how the poem applies to the stanzas themselves. Then I go to the commentaries to enhance my studies of the stanzas or slokas in themselves, with other commentaries of the Secret Doctrine in them. So let's go to stanza 1. The most important idea in the poem is that everything, including the universe, is eternal and periodical. Why? Because at the same time that you think about the universe and you contemplate our universe, you have to put inside your mind, and your intuition should integrate this, that the universe is eternal, does not have a beginning, will not have an end, yet is periodical. It has a time for rest and pralaya, like we do when we die, or we go to bed and sleep, and a time of manifestation, in Sanskrit Manvantara, where the universe manifests. The key words here that she's going to continuously use, and don't miss this point, is that in its eternal aspect, the cosmos, the universe, is in a state of absolute. Absolute is not a being, absolute is not an object, absolute is nothingness, but is eternal, omnipresent, like she explained in the first fundamental proposition. Yet, when the universe, in its periodical nature, is in a state of rest, of pralaya, appears to be like the absolute, and she calls it absoluteness. The word absoluteness means the universe is, instead of a white disk with a point in the center, the first logos, is in a state of darkness, because nothing is manifested, everything is sleeping. You see that? The dawn of differentiation, the state of absoluteness, and she calls this absoluteness Parabrahman. When she speaks like a person who is referring Parabrahman, like in Vedanta, Parabrahman in Vedanta is the absolute. You see that? That's why she refers Parabrahman as the absolute, speaking from a Vedanta point of view, or from the state of absoluteness, speaking as the universe is now at rest, and philosophically is in a state of absoluteness. Yeah, you got that? So that's very important to realize. If you have any question about this, ask me. But notice that, absolute and absoluteness. Therefore, in the poem, stanza 1 has three main key ideas. It describes, and that's on the left in green, it describes the state of the one all, which is another set of words for the universe, the one all, the point in the disk, during pralaya, during rest. It also is symbolizing negatives. So a lot of the description of stanza 1 will be dealt or will be written in negative, but it is also the state of absoluteness per se. You see, the third quality is in pralaya because it appears to be like an eternal aspect of the universe. This is the point I'm getting to. So when you read the stanzas of Dzyan now to study them, you need to consider that she is describing the one all in pralaya in negative and in a state of absoluteness. So let's see if we get the point. When we read stanza 1, sloka 1, please read it, Susan.
The eternal parent, wrapped in her ever invisible robes, had slumbered once again for 7 eternities.
So is she describing in negative? Well, slumbering maybe, but it's not in negative. Is that true? It's in a state of absoluteness. Maybe we can see that, but it describes the one all in pralaya. The universe, the one all is in pralayas. But notice that the one is not one, it's two. There are two elements there: eternal parent, invisible robes. Therefore, here the one is a two. That's why she explains it. These two can be called, like in Vedanta, Parabrahman Mula Prakriti. Okay? Parabrahman Mula Prakriti. That's very important. So look, the one is the two because nobody creates the two. There is not a God in Theosophy outside space, and the idea of space, we dealt with that in the previous lectures. There is not a God outside space creating the universe, the one all, and say, okay, now let there be a universe. And then there is spirit and matter. I see two. No, the one is a two. It's like a tree. It grows from the root of all. It will grow the branches and the leaves and so on. And a tree in several places in the Secret Doctrine is a good symbol for the universe. So you see how to work this out. The eternal parent, one idea, is wrapped in her you look at the feminine, ever invisible robes, another idea. Slumbering is very human. Remember the analogy. Universe is analogous to human, to the idea of the human, for 7 eternities. Here you have the idea of time. She called it the idea of duration. The next one, for instance.
Time was not, for it lay asleep in the infinite bosom of duration.
So, time was not negative, correct? No doubt. There was no time because the universe is at rest. But then she says something else. There is duration. And duration is the eternal nature of time. And this is a word that Newton used in England that Blavatsky loved, and he describes duration as timelessness. And Blavatsky loved that, and she used it in the Secret Doctrine. And therefore, in our vocabulary, duration is the eternal nature of time, and time is periodical. Periodical in the sense of 7 eternities during pralaya, 7 eternities during Manvantara, or 7 cycles, 7 kalpas, and so on. Okay, so you see how she's expressing the keynotes from the prone in the stanzas of Dzyan, and that will pop in your mind, will show up in your soul as, yes, this is light, I understand. The next one, for instance.
Universal mind was not, for there were no ahi to contain it.
It's on the same boat on the second. Now, here it says 5 because there is another typo in the Secret Doctrine, and it should be 3. So go to your book and cross 5 and put a 3 if you have the original version. So universal mind was not, that means like time, mind is at rest. But then there is another element. Ahi, which are the primordial 7, the primordial luminous first 7 Dzyan Chohans, or the hierarchy of divine beings, they are needed to do what? To contain the universal mind. When you study anthropogenesis, the same idea is there. We need the Manasaputras, a hierarchy of divine beings, Agnishvatas, a hierarchy of divine beings that will contain our mind, our manas. Remember, manas and the Manasaputras. I'm not going to go in detail to that, that's anthropogenesis, but I just want to show the relation, the analogy between the universe and a human being. For a human being in our third root race to acquire manas, the mind principle, we needed the aid of the Manasaputras, and the vocabulary is various to describe that. And so in the universe, the ahi, the primordial 7, are needed to contain them. See, 1 to 1. Then you have a, yes.
Oh, we have a question. Kerry's asking, is duration equal existence? And then he's got bosom of existence, question mark. So is duration equal existence?
Okay, so yes, duration equals existence in its abstract form, correct? When we say in its periodical form, in a human being, is birth and death. Life is eternal, but is birth and death is in a human being. On the universe, existence of the universe is eternal, but in its periodical nature, Manvantara and Pralaya. Keep the analogy going. I hope that explains it. So it's yes, but keep in mind always that there is an eternal aspect or nature, and there is periodical at the same time. So when you say existence, look for the other part of the equation, which is the periodical. And that together at the same time, integrated by an enlightened mind, the manas buddhi, manas taijasi, an illuminated mind, you can integrate those and keep in your mind that everything you say is eternal and periodical. The one life, eternal and periodical. The one force, eternal and periodical. Human beings, eternal, the monad, periodical, a tabernacle, a body, a quaternary for our triad. So everything is eternal and periodical. You miss one of them, and you miss the beauty of divine wisdom. So keep both in mind.
Great, thank you.
Hopefully that will explain. So the rest of the stanza, please look at them on the same 3 characteristics or 3 main ideas that in the prone is described. See that? So one more, we say number 5, the real 5 below.
Darkness alone filled the boundless all.
Okay, so you see that? Is described in negative? Not really. Why? Because darkness is nothingness, is the totality, is the one all. And the one all is in boundless all. So the white disk with the point, this is the universe, is in darkness. Right? So we are in this moment, we are in this moment that we are in Pralaya. We have at the first illustration of a dark background, a dark disk, and a dark point. Everything is dark. So with that symbol in mind, we read darkness alone filled the boundless all. Now we have the 3 in 1, Father, Mother, and Son were once more one. You see that? So now you have that the triplicity, 1, 2, 3, the third moment of manifestation were once more one, and we can see that is a negative or is in an absoluteness, a state of absoluteness. See how that works? Let's move on. So hopefully you will do this at home, sit down with these ideas and work the stanzas in this format. Then another technique very important, which I mentioned before, is linking. So how do we link? When we study stanza 2, we read from the Prom. Stanza 2, please, Susan. This is page 21 of the Prom. I'm not going back in the presentation. Go ahead, read it.
The stage described in stanza 2 is, to a Western mind, so nearly identical with that mentioned in the first stanza that to express the idea of its difference would require a treatise in itself. Hence, it must be left to the intuition and the higher faculties of the reader to grasp, as far as he or she can, the meaning of the allegorical phrases used. Indeed, it must be remembered that all these stanzas appeal to the inner faculties rather than to the ordinary comprehension of the physical brain.
Therefore, here on top, stanza 2 in the Prom, it describes the universe identically as stanza 1, which is the one all in pralaya, negative, in the state of absoluteness. Don't forget absoluteness. Darkness, that's the quality of the noun. But she also added the difference must be left to the intuition and higher faculties, and we all have that. So let's see how to apply that. First thing is always the vocabulary. Which ideas she describes in stanza 1 and how she represents them in stanza 2. So in stanza 1, sloka 1, it says the eternal parent and the ever invisible robes. We spoke about them. In stanza 2, you're going to see that the vocabulary changed to Deva Matri Swabhavat. It's no longer eternal parent, ever invisible robes. Also, it's described these two as one, the Matri Padma. Also, at the end, in Sloka 1, 3, 5 are the number of the slokas. In Sloka 5, these two, in stanza 1, in stanza 2, which we still in Pralaya, are referred now as Father, Mother, Swabhavat, and Swabhavat. And these two are the germ, and the germ is one, which is the universe. You see, linking is important. Make graphics, illustrations, diagrams. It's very, very rewarding to do that as you link stanzas. So eternal parent in ever invisible robes ended up in stanza 2 as Father, Mother, and Swabhavat.
So you want to find the recurrences of ideas and terms throughout the stanzas and trace them throughout in their appearance in the stanzas.
In the change of vocabulary allows your intuition and the higher faculties to see the difference between how something so abstract in stanza 1 is start taking form, Father, Mother, and Swabhavat, which is a Sanskrit term that we're going to see in a minute. Then another idea is the Ahi. Remember, the Ahi were not. And in stanza 1, also is called in stanza 1, the 7 sublime lords have ceased to exist in negative. They appear in stanza 2 as the builders. See the wording? The luminous suns. They're in darkness. Here is luminous suns, right? And they are the 7 suns, were not yet born from the web of light. Now it's giving us to our soul an insight. The universe is just about to come out. And then in 5 and 6, Father, Mother, and Swabhavat, the germ, which is one, the universe. Darkness alone filled the boundless all. But in Sloka 5, he tells us darkness alone was Father, Mother, and Soavat. Now the two of Father, the eternal parent, and the invisible robes are now Father, Mother, and Soavat were in darkness. See that? Now, linking ideas, you can keep going and going forever. What we have done at home when we study that is we printed the 7 stanzas, we taped them on paper. We have them all in one piece of paper, in one sheet. And I have to be careful with that word, my pronunciation. So we taped them, the 7 stanzas, and we linked them, actually. So darkness, we link the word darkness in all of them. And look at here, linking the idea of darkness in stanza 3. In stanza 1, it says darkness alone filled the boundless soul. In stanza 2, number 5 says darkness was Father, Mother, Soavat. In stanza 3, number 3 says darkness radiates light. In sloka 6, darkness vanished and was no more. It disappeared in its own essence. And in sloka 7, it says, behold, bright space sun, the third logos now, of dark space. You see how you're linking? And as you link, again, the main idea becomes luminous. That means that it will hit your soul and will give its wisdom to you. Yes, Richard.
Got another question here from Kerry again. It says, is this the stage sons, is that like angels or archangels? And sort of for me, where it talks about the 7 sons, is that talking about, like, you know, the 7 rays coming from the...
Yes, and we're going to see exactly who they are. We're going to see their names of them. We're going to see that hierarchy in detail as we go. Yes. Okay. For now, when Blavatsky speaks of logos number 1, logos number 2 and 3, these are stages of the universe. Logos number 3, which is also called Oeahu the Younger, the bright space sun of dark space, that one is actually the 7 primordial, or the hierarchy of the 7 primordial divine beings. And she talks about them extensively, and we're going to see that in a later stanza. And those are the containers of the universal mind. And in analogy, there is a set of primordial 7 in a solar system that will allow us to have mind, manas, and those are the lords of fire from Manasaputras and Agnisvatas that in anthropogenesis are very important. So you see now stanza 1 and stanza 2 are identical, and yet we see that we are very close to manifestation. Hope you see that. The vocabulary takes you intuitively that you are at the dawn of the universe. Then stanza 3 describes, will you read stanza 3? It's right here.
Stanza 3 describes the reawakening of the universe to life after pralaya.
Yeah.
It depicts the emergence of the monads from their state of absorption within the One, the earliest and highest stage in the formation of worlds, the term monad being one which may apply equally to the vastest solar system or to the tiniest atom.
You see, the poem gives you a lot, what to look in the stanza itself. So it describes the reawakening in the Bible is missing in the beginning. It should be in the beginning. That's what Blavatsky said, and it's true. We're looking at it's eternal, but at the same time it's periodical. It reawakes every 7 eternities. So the reawakening to what? To life of this universe after pralayas. But also it depicts the emergence of the monads, you and me. You remember when we were very cozy in the germ? That's what the germ means. All the monad, infinite number of monads, infinite because it's countless. The word is countless. Infinite, the monad, all of us slumbering, in our level, snoring, right? We're humans, right there, all against each other. And don't wake me up, don't wake me up. So we are all there in the one, from the state of absorption within the one. Imagine that, understand that, contemplate that idea. And also remember that the term monad is applied to the tiniest atom, and now even less than that, because we know there are quarks and things way below. Blavatsky said that matter is infinite. Isn't that interesting? And then the solar system and you and me. So I wrote here, and remember, you're going to have this presentation. I'm going to send it to Richard for you to have it if you want to. In stanza 3, these main ideas are now, I wrote the slokas that expresses that idea, and you can study them. We have no time, right, in this hour to go through every single sloka and look at them from this point of view and study all what can be studied on them. But this is giving you the keynotes and a bird's eye view, right? So the reawakening stanza 1 through 5, 8, and 9. The third logos, stanza 7, sloka 7. In sloka 7, you have the description of something extremely important, which is the description of the third logos, which is the God in every religion that manifests the universe, creates the universe. You will have the description of the God and the function of, like Jehovah, the description of Jehovah in sloka 7 and the function of Jehovah in sloka 7, or Zeus, or Amun-Ra, or etc., whichever religion or ancient mythology you're dealing with. The fabric of the universe, 10 to 12, monads, 11, 12, and then on 12 we end stanza 3. Now, stanza 3 ends with Swabhavat. Swabhavat sends Fohat to harden the atoms. You may ask, what is Swabhavat? If you ask Swabhavat, it's because you haven't read 10 and 12, right? The fabric of the universe is Father, Mother, and Swabhavat. So will you read number 310? So she's going to read you about Swabhavat. Remember, Father, Mother, and Swabhavat are the germ. When it's in the manifested of the universe, or during manifestation, they pop out, right? The two. And then
Father, Mother, spin a web, whose upper end is fastened to spirit, the light of the one darkness, and the lower one to its shadowy end, matter. And this web is the universe, spun out of the two substances made in one, which is Swabhavat.
Okay, so you got it. Father, Mother spins a web. Two substances, spirit and matter. And spirit and matter is Swabhavat. This is the relation. This is Swabhavat. In stanza 1 is Mula Prakriti and the invisible robes. In stanza 5 is going to be Kuan Yin, Isis, Maria, the Virgin Mary, the Queen of the universe, the female logos. Isn't that something? And in stanza 6, the full power of her will show up, the female logos.
So it's this fabric of the universe that we're referring to when we say Swabhavat?
Yes. And if you see like the Virgin of Guadalupe, very famous in Mexico, you see that she's depicted with the moon below her, the sun above, stars all over. She's the queen of the universe, right? Okay. But in stanza 6 is the fullness of that. So this stanza 3 ends with the following words. Then Swabhavat, which we know is the substance, spirit and matter, sends Fohat to harden the atoms. So now comes Fohat. Fohat is one of the most important characters of cosmogenesis. We know that. So study Fohat, gather every information of Fohat you can find, if you like the idea to study that in incredible idea of forehead. Zeus in ancient Greece had a forehead like lightning, right? Thunderbolts in his hand, and it's just incredible. It's Zeus, you know. So sense forehead. So we would say, we will deduce that stanza 4 is about forehead, because it's the last line in stanza 3, but it's not, because forehead is dealt in stanza 5. And stanza 5 is titled Forehead. It should be 4, but no, it can't be 4 because of what I'm going to say now. In stanza 5, forehead is subtitled The Child of the Primordial 7. You see the question? Who are these primordial 7? So forehead being the child of the primordial 7, we cannot study forehead without knowing the primordial 7. That's stanza 4. See the continuity? So
trace those ideas.
Trace those ideas. How to study the most difficult stanza in the whole Secret Doctrine? Very simple. Follow what I said. This is another technique. Align a paragraph in Blavatsky, especially stanza 4, that you find very difficult. Do this.
Write out the slokas line by line to study them in detail.
So instead of reading that block of lines and words, and by the end you're so exhausted, you say, this is not for me, you line them up and you see each individual line and you see wonders. For instance, you will see, oh, if I can see this, maybe, yes, right here. Then in Sloka 3, it says, and these 7, these are the 7 hierarchy of divine beings. Don't know if you can see them. And these are the name of the 7 hierarchies of divine beings. Essences, flames, elements, builders, numbers, arupa and rupa. As you see them and you study them, you're going to figure out very soon that you go from something extremely subtle, essences, to rupa, which in Sanskrit means corporeal, form, with form. Arupa means without forms. And these 7 are the force of the divine man, the sum total, which in Kabbalah is called Adam Kadmon. And here is the analogy of the universe and the human being. These 7 are now in Anthropogenesis, described in Sloka 17 of Anthropogenesis, are the divine beings now related to our 7 principles. You see how that works? I know I'm going really fast, but this is a way to study, to break down this abstract, difficult, and maybe first time that you study them, to then look at them in the Secret Doctrine and gather as much information, and they are there.
And you mentioned anthropogenesis. The linking doesn't stop from cosmogenesis.
Correct.
If you keep with it, you will find that you will have little IOUs that will be resolved in anthropogenesis.
Very good.
So that linking is really important.
And you can keep going by going to the Puranas and the Homer and Plato and the Tibetan Book of the Dead and the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and everywhere that Blavatsky took us to describe that. As we go to stanza 5, the title is Fohat, the Child of the Septenary Hierarchy. Another tool I use, and this is to show you different tools and ways that I study the elements of the stanza, first to get familiar, then to put it together, to study them, to concentrate on the main ideas. I write the stanzas, like I told you, I separate them, and look which new element or idea appears in this stanza that were not earlier, or is a continuation of an earlier one. For instance, in Sloka 1, the primordial 7, that came out from the Ahi in stanza 1. Number 3, the mind, the universal mind was not there because these fellows were not there. This divine hierarchy was not there. See that? But she also introduces Fohat, the fiery whirlwind. In stanza 2 to 5, we're going to find Fohat and Lipika. And then you're going to notice that in stanza 5, as you study this, and by the way, I'm sorry, Fohat, you're going to study and figure out that she's describing Fohat, functions, powers, and then she's going to describe the Lipikas, wheels, and armies. In Sloka 6, Lipikas, more functions, more powers, more about the wheels, which is our planet Earth and the solar system and the planetary chains, but she's going to go to something extremely theosophically yummy. Ring pass not, and the great day be with us. So you're going to see in stanza 5 how Fohat shows up and how Lipika shows up, and the dance between the two forms the structure of the universe. What we study in stanza 3 is, or was, the emergence of the universe. And that is just kind of chaotic. What was dark is now light. What was chaos is now a fabric of the universe. Now we have to set order. Cosmos from chaos, going through theos. That's another topic in the Secret Doctrine. Chaos, theos, and cosmos. So what happened is, as Fohat manifests and hardens the atoms and everything in the universe, the Lipika built a ring pass knot around everything in the universe that is being manifested, and that ring pass knot is the law of the system. Without the Lipikas capturing and saying a human being, Adam Kadmon, the idea, the archetype of a human being cannot be more than this. It can be less to start with, and it's to end up being like this. And that's the ring pass knot. To understand the work of the Lipika and the ring pass knot is to understand with clarity each archetypical idea that is necessary to have a universe the way it is. This is the work of the third logos, to contemplate the ideas, to send the Lipikas, to manifest the universe with an order. In that order, you're going to have laws and hierarchies and analogies, and it's a beautiful story in stanza 5. Okay, so here is an illustration of number 1. So will you read 5:1?
All right.
Look at the graphic, the illustration, and listen to Susan as she described. The stanza 5 starts with the dragon of wisdom. The one before that is what we know as the universe that is eternal and periodical. Stanza 5, number 1.
The primordial 7, the first 7 breaths of the dragon of wisdom, produce in their turn from their holy circumgyrating breaths the fiery whirlwind, or Fohat. Okay. They make of him the messenger of their will. The Zu becomes Fohat, the swift son of the divine sons, whose sons are the Lipika.
And here's our description. The Lipikas are the sons of the primordial sun, are the second 7, and that's how stanza 4 ends, saying, and then the second 7, who are the Lipika, and now is the topic of stanza 5. You see that? That's the link. And so here in stanza 5, you have the dragon of wisdom, which is described in stanza 3, number 7. As I told you, is the third logos, is the creative deity in every religion, in every mythology, in ancient tradition. Let there be, light, and that's that. Yeah, that's the first behold to your right. And then you have the second 7 and Fohat. So, and you have manifestation and dissolution. Remember, Fohat is that energy that will manifest. That's why it's a dragon of wisdom. But when that dragon of wisdom reverses in the book of Revelations of St. John, is red. It was green, Kabbalistically, alchemically. while it was in manifestation. Now the direction of the swastika is turned, the dragon has turned, and now dissolution of the universe. That's the book of Revelation. Of that, Blavatsky said, she will not give us, in the Secret Doctrine she wrote, she will not give us the stanzas of the dissolution of the universe.
She called them the apocalyptic stanzas.
Oh, thank you, the apocalyptic stanzas. Good word. And good news is we have the book of Revelations, which is a theosophical book. It should be added to here. And the book of Enoch and many others, right? We have that. So in the Puranas and et cetera, et cetera. This dissolution of the universe are in many traditions. Even Wagner has the destruction of Valhalla and all that. It's very interesting. And the music of Wagner describing this in music, this is just superb. So again, illustrations will help you a lot. Don't forget that Blavatsky expanded the topics of the stanzas themselves in her commentaries. This is from the table of content. You see that? The square of the tabernacle. Tabernacle is our body, the vahan in India, the vehicle to manifest and descend in lower realms or planes and so on. Don't forget to look at everything else. Stanza 5 also has an incredible numerical idea of the 3, 14, 15, and 1065. The 3, 14, 15 with the Lipika line, remember the circle, it circles them, we're not going to study that, of course, because that takes at least 30 minutes to look at them. But there are 3 times that she speaks about them, or she translated the slokas and describes them. And it's in stanza 5, sloka 6, stanza 4, number 3, stanza 7, number 1. So you see, linking gives you a lot. Stanza 6, it describes our world, its growth and development. Now, listen to how it starts. Will you read sloka 1?
By the power of the Mother of Mercy and Knowledge, Kuan Yin, the triple of Kuan Shayin, residing in Kuan Yin Qian, Fohat, the breath of their progeny, the son of the sons, having called forth from the lower abyss the elusive form of Xian Chang and the 7 elements.
What do you do when you don't understand something? You list them, line by line. Kuan Yin, female logos. For the first time in the stanzas of Dzyan, the feminine shows up, besides the mother. Now the mother of the cosmos, Swabat, is going to show up as a female creative logos, the Shakti in Eastern traditions, the female logos. And she has in the Secret Doctrine a lot of correspondences in other traditions of Kuan Yin. That is the chapter 15 of the part 2 of Cosmogenesis in symbology, where she talks about Kuan Yin. The triple allegorically means mother, wife, and daughter. So as mother, she's Swabat. As wife, she's Kuan Yin. As daughter, it keeps going and going, below and below, all the way to you and me, male and female. Kuan Shayin, the third logos. Earlier on in stanza 3, he is the Oeahu the younger, the third logos, the divine dragon of wisdom. Look for these dragons of wisdom in potteries, in these beautiful porcelains in China. And it's just beautiful. She said this is taken from the Chinese symbology. This is just incredible. Residing in their field, in her heaven, Kuan Yin's heaven, which is her field of activity, which is the soul of the universe, Alaya Anima Mundi. Fohat, you're going to study it in stanza 5, the sons of the sons, the breath of their progeny, and having called. Here now, the universe is called by the power of the female logos. What is that power of the female logos? This is the female logos. And she gave us 2 attributes, mercy and knowledge. mercy and knowledge. So as a female, feel that mercy and knowledge together within the universe and within you. And it is incredible understanding, is full of light, and what mercy is, and why people pray to the Virgin Mary. Mercy and knowledge is right there, the Virgin of the universe, the mother of the cosmos. She's giving us things to contemplate. And contemplate means to be one with it, and in order to allow us to get the illumination of that idea. Then again, in stanza 7, she recapitulates the cosmogenesis, and she says,
"Behold, the beginning of sentient, formless life. First, the divine, the one from the mother spirit. Then the spiritual, the 3 from the 1, the 4 from the 1, and the 5, from which the 3, the 5, and the 7.
Did you see the 1, 4, 1, 5, that's the 3, 14, 15. She's repeating all this, right?
So we're into emanation now.
Yes.
And that's very numerical.
Right. And then keep going, please.
These are the 3-fold, the 4-fold downward, the mind-born sons of the first Lord, the shining 7. It is they who are thou, me, him, O Lanu, they who watch over thee and thy mother earth.
Here you have the complete cosmogenesis in this sloka number 1. Just a revelation of the complete manifestation of from the very, very beginning, which is the beginning of sentient, formless life, because life was at rest, right? The one life, eternal, now it's manifested or manifesting, all the way into sloka 5, where from the monad to the planetary chain, to the earth, to its kingdom is described. Sloka 5, it takes us from now, first the structure of the universe in sloka 1, now the monads, the kingdoms of nature, the kingdoms of the universe are put together. Remember, the universe has these 2 elements, a skeleton, the structure of the universe, the fabric of the universe, which is 7-fold, with planetary chains where we do our evolution, and the monads traveling, pilgrimage, she called them pilgrimage of that. And then the 7 is the last one.
This is thy present wheel.
This is the planet Earth.
I have clothed myself in thee, and thou art my vahan, or vehicle.
Look, feel it. I, my monad, right? Atma Buddhi Manas. I clothe myself in thee. We got to feel that. We are not this physical body. In Theosophy, we are this 7-fold constitution. He's telling us, behold it, look at it, feel it, meditate, contemplate it. You are my vehicle, right?
Thou art my vahan. To the day be with us. Then the builders, having donned their first clothing, descend on radiant earth and reign over men who are themselves.
And that takes us to anthropogenesis. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Martin and Susan. That was wonderful. I did have a couple of questions myself. Hopefully we're waiting for some others online. Some of these words that we hear, like the absolute, the one all, you just mentioned, Martin, the wheel, which is earth. Where do we find, I mean, I know some of the encyclopedias, etc., have definitions of things, but do we find them all in Madame Blavatsky's work here, or do you have to?
In stanza 4, 5, and 6, she describes the wheel, and the wheel is described as the structure of that evolving solar system, galaxy nowadays, and planets and the planetary chains that the monads are in pilgrimage. So will is a very important structure of the universe. So there are big wheels, small wheels, and symbolically, she refers us to the vision of Ezekiel, where he's walking by a river and the heavens open, and he sees a fiery wind that's Fohat, and then the chariots and the wheels, and the wheels has eyes. And on top of that, the throne, and on top of the throne, sitting on the throne, is the divine man. And this is what she says, the hierarchy of divine beings, when you sum them all up, is the divine human. This is Adam Kadmon. That's how in Kabbalah they study this cosmogenesis. So they break down that vision in details, and they get the stanzas of Dzyan.
Okay,
So,
thank
yes,
you.
will find description of the wills everywhere in the Secret.
No, okay, well, that's good as long as we can get them from somewhere. I do have a question from Ganesh Kumar. Dear Martin, thank you for explaining in very clear terms cosmogenesis as detailed in the stanzas of Dzyan. Earlier you were describing the absoluteness prior to the manifestation. Just an associated question, have you also done any investigations on the Nasadaya Sukta of the Rig Veda, which also described a similar situation?
No, not really. I'm sorry. I have studied the ones in Plato's Timaeus, in the Popol Vuh. I mean, there are other areas of interest, but not in India, not the Eastern. I want to get into the Tibetan Buddhism now, the cosmogenesis of them. But no. A little bit of Egyptians, but no, Greek, yeah. Roman, no. It's a lot there, huh? A lot. It's all very, very beautiful. But the elements are here. Blavatsky gave you some, I think, enough details to go and compare and contrast. It's very important to contrast.
Yeah. You were just mentioning the ring pass not before. And it sounds like everything, except for Mahatma, right up has a ring past not, and that even comes to like our solar system and then system of Sirius and on. Could you maybe just go into a little bit more about that ring past not, how it affects, say, the person?
Yeah, and for that, it's better to feel the ring past not. Think about yourself as a human being and see what limits you have. Not your own limits, like barriers and complexes, but as a human being, what are the things that you cannot? For instance, you cannot put your consciousness in the sixth level, in the Buddhi, Mahat. You can't. We don't have the structure to do that. So there is a ring past not that tells us when we graduate as a human being, this is as far as we can go. So we got to feel that every structure in the universe, every form has not only a form, but it has a function, and it has a number that dictates their limits. And their limit is birth and death, and how far it can go in the evolution. This is an endless evolution. Endless. The universe has no beginning, no end. But it's in endless evolution. The monadic pilgrimage assumes a new vehicle, a new tabernacle, a new vahan in India. And then comes the ring past not says, this is who you are, like it or not. This is what you're going to do. There is no escape of this. And by learning that, this is your dharma. This is what Krishna was telling Arjuna, find your dharma, fulfill it. So this is what ring past not is. It's the dharma of the system.
Martin, would you
Yeah.
say in The Voice of the Silence, when she talks about the breadth and depth and
Oh,
points that
yeah,
are
that's a good
necessary,
point too.
it
Good
seems
point.
that there's
Yeah.
that limitation is sort of necessary. We need a sort of framework
Yes.
because there can't be in the field of activity, it can't be boundless.
Right.
There has to be a frame to the picture, an arena of activity. And so we have the ring pass not, like
Correct.
universally and
That's
personally.
very true. So we got to feel the ring pass not. So it's that element in the universe. The Lipikas are in charge, and so imagine a set of divine beings that frames, like she said, and circles the 3, the 1, the 4, circles everything. All the wheels. That's the word wheel. You know, it has a circumference. And that's the dharma of the system. It gives name, description, vibration, color, purpose, cycle. It tells you everything. This is the archetypical idea in its completeness. And study them, you study the laws of nature and so on. It's one of the most beautiful ideas in the Secret Doctrine, which is everywhere, by the way. She describes it in Plato, in Christianity, as the angels of something, and so on. So it's everywhere, this idea of ring pass not. And we can see it. We're humans. What does it mean to be human? And so the most important thing is, if we transgress it, karma shows up. You know?
Yeah, so it sounds like each kingdom will have a pass not, the mineral kingdom, the human kingdom, and then when we go to the superhuman kingdom, like the depths, their ring pass not. Is that, do you think, linked to some sort of expansion of consciousness, that ring pass not keeps expanding, or is it maybe the kingdom that you're in?
Yeah, we keep expanding in the human being because we are expanding, and therefore now we have round races and sub races and all that anthropogenesis that keeps expanding within us, and that's the purpose of evolution, spiritual evolution, and along with the form. So we keep expanding our consciousness, but there is something that is limiting us up to the point of the archetypical human being, Adam Kadmon. Or if you want to see it from the Indian side, you will read it theosophically in the notes of the Bhagavad Gita of Subarao. When he, quoting the Bhagavad Gita, he sees Krishna as the Logos, an archetypical human being. So that's very important for those who like and are attuned to the Eastern philosophy. Krishna is that archetypical man, and so he can teach Arjuna. And that's important to have this archetypical mind.
Thank you. Ganesh just said, thanks, Martin. That was the previous question. I just asked because the Nasadeva Sutra, this description of the state prior to manifestation is very similar to what has been described by HPB in the stanzas of Dzyan. Kerry says, that was exciting for me as I just started on the 700-page plus page 98 chapter Genesis 6 Conspiracy by Gary Wayne. Your presentation on Blavatsky slots right in with the beginning of the Watchers, referring as the sons of God, being the angels looking over the first physical people and Adam and Eve. Thank you. Sorry, I missed the others. So one thing I did like about this series, Martin, and which I took away because it's a very difficult topic, one of the most difficult to get your head around. And what I really appreciated was how you made it simplistic, if you can call making the Secret Doctrine simplistic. But what I mean by that is you didn't try and cover the whole thing. You just take a stanza here and then break it down. And so your methodology, which I think you mentioned earlier on, was if you take a stanza by stanza and see where something new has been introduced. So where did this fit in that wasn't there before? So obviously something is happening. Try and understand what that something is. And then the good advice of break it down line by line. So don't try and eat the whole elephant in one bite. What does this line mean? What does this word mean? How does it fit in? And, really don't rush it. Just sit on these things and ponder them and investigate them a little bit more, because unless you get those sort of basic concepts, it'd be impossible to continue on, because you don't know what you're continuing on with or from. So I found that very enlightening, and some of the comments from some of the people I've been speaking to who joined us on these sessions have said the same thing, that you didn't try and bite too much off, that we just looked at a couple of small things and tried to get to the core of it, which is, I think, the particular style, which is very pleasing that you have. So thank you very much for that. And thank you too, Susan, because you've been a terrific help, obviously, with Martin, and it's lovely to see both of you presenting together. It was really something special. Hopefully I will have a talk with Martin. We may see if we can do some sort of follow-up series next year on Theosophical Sundays.
Thank you for the invitation. It was an honor, and
thank you, everybody, for joining.
Happy New Year.